Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 11th installment of Coffee Talks. My name is Christy, and together with Gladiola, we'll be the moderators of this event, organized, as you know, on the occasion of a very special day, which is the International Youth Day. 21 years ago, in 1999, the UN General Assembly officially declared the 12th of August as International Youth Day, and it's framed as an opportunity to celebrate and mainstream youth voices, ideas, and initiatives, as well as their meaningful inclusion, universal and equitable engagement. The theme for this year is Youth Engagement for Global Action, and it seeks to draw lessons on how the representation and engagement of youth in formal institutional politics can be significantly improved. We at UNA Albania, in partnership with the UN country team and UNFPA, decided to commemorate this day by organizing a coffee talk. That is an event shaped in the form of a large conversation between participants and guest speakers, set in an informal, cozy, and inclusive setting. On this beautiful day, we all will share our morning coffee. Here's my mug, and I hope you brought yours. And spend a productive time listening to each other's opinions, ideas, and solutions. We are delighted to have as guest speaker, Dr. Nigina Abaszadeh, UNFPA Country Director for Albania. Dr. Abaszadeh, thank you very much for joining us today. And Dr. Abaszadeh is joining us actually from Moldova, so this is one of those perks of online events. Because it reduces geographical distances, let's say. But also we have with us a whole UNFPA Albania team with Elida Nuri, Advocacy and Communication Analyst, and Dorina Tocaj, Reproductive Health and Youth Program Analyst. Elida and Dorina, thank you very much and welcome to this event.
Thank you.
This event also falls under the UN75 initiative. So the largest ever global conversation launched by the UN on gathering opinions on the future we all need. Hence, in the spirit of International Youth Day and the UN75 Dialogue, I invite you all to take this opportunity and to actively share your thoughts and solutions openly and shape beautiful and meaningful conversation. Without further ado, I would like to give the floor to Dr. Abaszadeh, who will tell us more about UNFPA and its work in engaging and empowering youth at regional and global level. Dr. Abaszadeh, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. I got a little bit distracted because of the kids. Yes, even try to arrange the childcare. It's really uncontrollable. So they're 5 years old, difficult to fully 100% guarantee everything from all sides. So it is my great pleasure to greet you today on behalf of UNFPA office in Albania on International Youth Day. This is your day, of course, to celebrate your successes, acknowledge youth as at the center of developments. And it's always inspiring to meet and learn from young people like you. So this is for me a real pleasure and I mean really inspiring event for me. I always say that young people are the energy boost, the storehouse of ideas, and we have so much to learn from each of you. At UNFPA, when we talk about to young people, we always tell them that you are actually the you in UNFPA. So we start from you, and if we want to live up to the idea of UN charter, if we want to achieve the sustainable development goals, if we want to build peace, then we have to put young people at the center, and we have to embrace young people as equal partners on the journey together. So I think this is what we're trying to do, and this is what we're trying to also to understand today and hear each other's view and perspective. So I'm so glad that I can talk to you today, and you are the driving force in the ambitious 2030 agenda, and you are the transformative power of the world's, you know, of the world's young people. I also, we always hear that when we are in a global event, in the regional events, when we're interacting with the global youth, we always hear the slogan from their side that young people say now that nothing for us without us. So there is no one that could decide on your behalf. And this is, I think, the main principle that we have to accept and we have to embrace and we have to live through. And we have to take this principle to the heart. So as UNFPA, we always emphasize on our partnership with young people, based on their active and meaningful participation. And this comes actually as a long-standing tradition of the organization, because young people were always at the forefront of the UNFPA agenda, the agenda for population and development. And we have has been working with young people since the inception of the organization. You know that today's generation of young people is absolutely massive. Around 1.8 billion young people are between 10 to 24 globally, and young people comprise a huge proportion of the population. So how will these young people navigate through adolescence and coming to the course of their own life? This is very important, of course. In this region, in Eastern Europe and Central Asia, young people under age of 25 make up around 22% of the overall population, which of course huge transformative power in the region as well. And I mean, you know that young people in the region went through many turnovers, political, social, and economic turnovers, that sometimes turn to opportunities, but also to immense challenges as well. I know that, for example, in Albania, employment, economic status, and education level are the three main factors for influencing migration intentions of Albanian youth. So this is immense challenge in that sense. And while we know that young people are more connected and empowered in the region through different technologies, through regional networks, through global networks, at the same time, they become also very much vulnerable to economic, political, and social challenges, as I said. On top of that, we now living through the COVID pandemic. And I want to highlight that, we should also acknowledge how COVID pandemic actually impacted young people, and how significantly closures of formal and non-formal educational opportunities deprived the young people of social engagement with peers and educators, how prolonged periods of closures and movement restrictions could lead to additional emotional unrest and anxieties. And I think this is very important also to acknowledge. And of course, most vulnerable young people become even more affected. At the same time, I think that we at UNFP believe that believe in the power of young people to innovate and use new technologies and to create solutions that will transform any crisis into opportunities. So I think in this pandemic situation, young people have even specific role, very important role in terms of looking at the solidarity between young and older generations, creating intergenerational bonds between young and the elders, leading, showing the dynamic leadership. So this is all very important, and I hope we will discuss it today. So coming to the UNFPA mandate and coming to UNFPA role, I would like to stress the importance of addressing the sexual reproductive health and rights of young people. And for this, we must acknowledge our collective responsibility, because it's not only important to prevent adolescents and adolescent pregnancies and unintended pregnancies, but also look at in the area of HIV infection, dissemination knowledge in the area of the sexual reproductive health and rights. So to promote healthy and respectful relationships that foster gender equality, that help young people ability to be leaders, this is also very important. We also, when we talk to young people, we see that young people now demand, besides technical and professional skills, their critical need for life skills education to make informed decisions during their transformation from adolescence to adulthood and secure health and well-being. When I talk to young people, I always put choice in the center of conversation, because for me it's a main thing that it's because actually everything we discuss and advocate is for about having and making a choice. So choice of to continue education, choice of having a decent job, choice of having a life free from violence, choice of having access to information and being informed, etc. So this is what rules our life. And so choice happens when people can make their own decisions about their lives. So choice is empowering for young people and young girls in particular. So in that sense, I just want all of us unite for revolution of choice, to make it reality for every young person of Albania and beyond. And I'm looking forward to the conversation today around that. Thank you. Over to you, Christine.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abaszadeh, for reminding us of the importance of choice and equitable opportunities for all the youngsters, and also for sharing the vision, the largest vision that UNFPA has in working with and for youth. I will go on with some logistical details of how this event is going to go. So this event is being recorded and it's streamed live on Facebook in order to reach a larger audience who can contact us with their comments and questions through the comment section on Facebook. And the conversation will be divided in 3 main subtopics. A thought to create a comprehensive approach to the main theme. Each subtopic will be presented by one of the guest speakers, and then the floor shall be open for interventions. If you want to speak, please indicate so in the chat box section by writing #IGotAPoint, and the moderator will recognize you and give you the floor. Also, please try to keep your interventions up to 2 minutes in order to give everyone the chance to speak. I would kindly ask you to mute your mics and unmute them only when you have been given the floor. So we'll start right away with the first subtopic, which is
just one thing, Christian, if you just one thing, sorry, what we have to do when we want to talk something, we have to say something?
You shall write in the, yes, in the chat box, you go to the chat box and type there your message by writing #IGotAPoint. Okay. Or #I want to speak. It's okay, it's not exclusive. And you'll be recognized then by the moderators in order of people who wrote first to take the floor. So as I was saying, the first topic is assessing the needs of young key populations and other marginalized groups for achieving their effective inclusion and participation. And I would like to give the floor back to Dr. Abaszadeh, followed by Mrs. Tocaj for the introduction of the first subtopic. Dr. Abaszadeh, the floor is yours.
So, I mean, I will be very brief because I want us to have a conversation actually, rather than me talking all the time. So, for us, the young key population, those key populations group, which are due to specific high-risk behavior are at the high risk of HIV or other type of vulnerabilities, and those are different young people with disabilities, young girls in child marriage, ethnic minorities, Roma, Egyptian, people who are living in the rural and remote areas. So those will be all marginalized and vulnerable groups. And the key population would be more focused on specific type of behavior, like men who have sex with men, people in prisons, people who use drugs, and sex workers, transgender people, etc. And again, coming back to the reality that we live in through, I think that we have to look at these, vulnerabilities have been expanded with the current pandemic. So on top of the economic and other social factors, now we have other vulnerabilities coming up, which have been revealed by the current situation, of course. So those will be young people living in poor and high density urban areas, those who live in informal setting, for example, who don't have access to running water and other services because of the also limiting the ability for physical distance, for example, right, which is also very important in the pandemic. Young people experiences homelessness, who have little access to services, again, limited ability to physical distance. Young migrants also suffer disproportionately from pandemic. Young people separated from and accompanied by migrant working parents, for example, because they cannot back home, or they face high risk of exploitation, violence, mental health issues. Young people with disabilities, as I said, who are differently abled and have different physical or mental or visual, intellectual disabilities. Adolescent girls who suffer from gender-based violence, and because of the lockdown, they have to live with the aggressor, for example, a long time, and young people with chronic health conditions such as asthma, for instance, and of course, young people living with HIV. So those will be like the huge group of young people, vulnerable young people who we have to pay specific attention and who have to prioritize in our work. And back over to the colleagues, to the young people, so to have this conversation.
Thank you, Dr. Abaszadeh, for your remarks. Dorina, if you want to add something to the remarks expressed by Dr. Abaszadeh.
Thank you, Christy. Thank you all. Thank you, Nigina, very much. And as highlighted by Nigina, it would be very probably more helpful if we engage in a conversation. So if young people jump in with their questions and reflections, because it's your day-to-day. And as UNFPA, we're putting lots of efforts and energy, but with you and led by you in terms of prioritization and implementation of key actions in addressing youth priorities in the country, in the region, and globally. Considering that the key word of your question is young population and the most vulnerable and marginalized youth. A personal reflection, not only as UNFPA staff, but living in Albania and working in Albania, working for young people and with young people for many years, I should say that this is definitely one of the most important areas that we all should focus, not only we in the organizations as UNFPA or other international organizations, but this should be a mission for all young people, for all of you. You never should neglect, let's say, in the good term, the issues that the young populations are facing in Albania, the issues that the marginalized and vulnerable youth are facing in Albania and in other countries, but this conversation definitely will be focused more in our reality. And as Nigina said, considering as well the pandemics, the COVID-19 pandemic, which is impacting a lot, even our reality, even Albania, you should imagine that the issues that are faced by this population group are even bigger. They are lacking access to services. They are lacking access to information. They are living in poorer families with very little support to overcome their challenges and barriers. I live very close by the center where the injecting drug users, sex workers, MSM, take services every day. And this center is facing lots of challenges, as many other NGOs in the country. They're facing challenges in terms of resources, human and financial resources, considering that now the biggest priority is addressing COVID-19 crisis in the country and more broader. So what will be our role in being closer to the needs and priorities when it comes to Yankee populations and when it comes to the most vulnerable and marginalized youth? What are we all doing? This is something that really should be like a bell for all of us, ringing for all of us. A couple of weeks ago, a month ago, let's say, better said, I've been attending the AIDS 2020 conference online, the first event, global event organized fully online, and it was amazing. Not only amazing in terms of the progress that has been done over the last years in fighting this long battle when it comes to HIV and AIDS globally, but what was very much impressive was the voice of Yankee population in this international forum. And I kept a note on one particular quote from a transgender. She was like part of the prime session in the conference, and she said, please don't refer to us as hard to reach population anymore. It's not that we're hard to reach population. It's that us all, organizations and youth forums and all the actors are not finding the right approaches to reach Yankee populations, to reach the most vulnerable and marginalized. And sometimes I feel that we are becoming hard to reach actors and hard to work with, because we're not finding the right approaches to interact and to engage in a meaningful way Yankee populations and other vulnerable and marginalized groups in our society. And considering now that we are working even in this kind of modality, being most of the time online, virtually, practicing more, exercising more on the virtual platforms, which is great because it's an opportunity given for us to continue our advocacy efforts, to continue to strengthen the dialogue. But it's not great for the most vulnerable and marginalized. It's not great for those people who cannot be part of this virtual reality because of the big challenges they're facing in their lives. So I want to keep this conversation. Definitely we can share more on what UNFPA is doing in the country, the programs, the initiatives we're implementing together with you. But it would be maybe more helpful to have some of your reflections and perceptions on the issues faced by young people, focusing more on the most marginalized and vulnerable, and what can be our role altogether in addressing their major issues. So maybe, or having some questions, maybe it's going to make this coffee talk, virtual coffee, helpful for all of us. And thank you very much, Christy, for the moderation, and Gladiola. And I know, probably the thanks should go at the end, but I want to start with thanking my colleague, Elida, who is on her annual leave and is doing her best and has done her best over the last days in making possible this event and other very important events around UNFPA mandate and around priorities we're facing at the country level and not only. Thank you very much, Elida.
Well, thank you, Dorina. I will also join you with a thanks to Elida, the all UNFPA team, for making this possible. And now let's give the floor to the participants. Please keep in mind the remarks and build upon the ideas that were shared by Dorina and Dr. Abaszadeh. Tell us more about your difficulties, barriers to participate, and the difficulties that you face before and during and after the COVID-19, and offer us solutions. So what do you think should be done more on all levels? So international organizations, youth as peer-to-peer educators, but also institutions. So have the institutional approach. I see we have two young people who want to take the floor. The first is Daniel. Daniel, you have the floor.
Thank you, Christy. So for everyone, I'm Daniel Husseini, and I work as a National Roma Youth Coordinator for organization Roma Active Albania. Actually, it's very true about that, what Ms. Dorina said, that the most vulnerable groups were very, very affected by the COVID-19. We have seen that those people who have been vulnerable, they in a way they suffered more. And it's also very important that we have been discussing about the Roma community, that is one of the communities who have been more excluded from the society. And this is something that I would suggest also to UNFPA and also to all international organizations to keep in mind that every time you might have an activity or something related to the young people, also to keep in mind including Roma youngsters. Myself, I have started doing this because I'm a person who wants to be included in everything when it's related to young people, because I want to give my voice to the young Roma. So every activity that is related with youngsters, I'm there because I want to give my voice. That's why I'm here today, giving away Roma who are young Roma, youngsters Roma who are, let's say, speechless. And I'll just say that the youngsters mostly during the pandemic, we have seen that most of the youngsters, they lost their jobs, which is something very sad, especially not only in Albania, but also in the region, in the Western Balkans, and also in Turkey, because we are very connected with those countries. So the situation is pretty the same in all those countries, and also in Albania is also the same. That most of the youngsters, they lost their jobs, and what we saw is that discrimination have been more visible during those that period, because people, for example, in the case of Albania, people who have been foodless were the people from the Roma community, because they didn't have any incomes or savings to buy food during the pandemic, because they were not able to work. So they were asking from the government for help, for food, and we have seen that the hate speech towards the Roma community has been increased, because people would say, oh, we have our own problems now, why we have to take care about the Roma. So we have seen that the level of the hate speech have been increased, and also people were trying to exclude the Roma community. So this is something that if you see it in long term, we haven't been working that much on the way making people opening their minds to be more open towards different communities, and to be more more close to those people who are very vulnerable. Thanks.
Thank you, Daniel, for your important remarks. Now I'll give the floor to Henry, followed by Mike. Henry, you have the floor.
Thank you, Christy, for the floor, and thank you for the coffee talk. I want to make some brief explanations from my personal experience. Can you all hear me? So, first of all, I am one of the 2 Albanian youth delegates to the United Nations, and I'm also a doctor now. And during my work in healthcare institutions, specifically during the time of COVID-19, I have witnessed that there has been a decrease of the availability of the antiretroviral therapies, specifically to the people who did not have the access of transportations during the time of the pandemics, which is something that has led to a progression of the viral infection to young people, especially to those who are marginalized. Also, something that I have witnessed during my work in the emergency room is that there are many Roma young girls that come to the emergency room having different symptomatics that are related to pregnancy. And these problems now are being enhanced because of the COVID-19 pandemics, because the emergency rooms are more focused on dealing with the COVID-19 rather than dealing with other specific problems. And there has been a decrease in the actual availability of these, let's say, facilities to young individuals. One problem that also I want to point is that during this time, it has been really difficult for young individuals who suffer from chronic disease to get the right treatment. So I really do suggest that we keep in mind this kind of problems, because they really affect many people in our country. And maybe later I can explain how we can do something about this. But I just wanted to make a point and stress the fact that the COVID-19 has deepened the differences of the marginalized groups into getting the right treatments or the right medical attention. So I'm looking at this as a whole now. I really do believe that it is because there is lack of literacy, for example, in the Roma community, that they seek less medical care. If we start working with them with, for example, informal education and raise awareness about these kind of problems, we can also influence and make young individuals raise their voice in order to seek medical attention, or at least get tested, for example, for HIV, because the rates of HIV testing in Albania are very low at the moment. Thank you, and maybe later I can provide some more information about this that I've collected during my work.
Thank you very much, Henry, for sharing with us your remarks. To all the participants, please try to limit your interventions to 2 up to 3 minutes in order to give the possibility to everyone to speak. Now I see that Mike wants to take the floor. I remind everybody that if you want to speak, you should write in the chat box, I want to speak, or I got the point, and you will immediately be recognized. Mike, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Hi all. Thank you for the possibility to talk. And I want to talk something very important in my countries. First is for the disabled people. I think the disabled peoples are not so much supported by the governments and different organizations. Even we have the law that we must work, we don't have work, we don't find work. Even we have the university, the master, with the different language that we protect and we know, and we have different values, but no one care about these things, and no one even is the law, no one respects this law. Even in government institution, we don't find job. Even in private companies, different companies, we don't find job. They say, yes, 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 we will take you, but nothing they do, even we are able. I think about the disabled persons, I want to say they are like the diamonds, because even diamonds are carbons, but have so much value if you want to sell or to buy one diamond. Even there are carbons. Even us, even we have a problem in our physique, we have values. Different disabled people know maybe to sing, maybe to do something with internet, maybe to do different jobs and different things, but we have values and they have to even protect us, even to support us in different kind of way. We see during the pandemic situation, we see the people in Albania don't want to stay at home and they go in hide way to drink a coffee or to make a walk. Even they are normal, no problem with their health and their physical part of body. They have all to imagine what have to think and to feel all the disabled person. They want to go out for a lot of years, but they don't go out because they don't have the possibility to work, the possibility to be part of a culture show or a sports show, to see something, to do something, to enjoy their life too. But they have always to stay inside house and to stay there with no job, no activities, no nothing. Even the other point of the disabled people that I want to talk, the support from the payment of government is, I can say, zero in Europe and world, of course, but even in Balkan, because even Kosovo, even Montenegro, even other countries are better than us in payment of the people that have camp. It is the correct word, the camp for the disabled people. They pay so few money for them, so few money. They cannot take even their medicine and their needs. They cannot do. The other point that I want to say, that I talk in different organizations, even with France ambassador and the council director of Europe, even the governor of those is the disabled people one. Second is the woman rights, because I hear even TV, even other situation that minor and girls become mother but don't have the support from the payment or something, that don't have support the government institution or the different organization. They don't have the human support or material support. This is the second point. And the third point, even the Egyptian minority, they need to support too, even in the social mentality of the young people and different people, that have to support them, to include them in their life, like the disabled people, because they, most of the time, not all, but most of the time, that make them apart, because they don't have to see with us, are disabled, we cannot do with us this thing because they are disabled. I think we have to change first mentality, second to be more active, third we have to make more marketing to all them, marketing in good way, to make marketing to support them, to include them in our lives, and to make them active in our lives. Even the disabled people, even the women minority that are not protected, even the Roman minority, Egyptian minority. These are my points that for me is so important that we can talk.
Thank you very much, Mark, for your really important sharing of concerns and challenges that disabled people face in Albania.
I can say just one last thing, Christian, sorry. Just one last thing. I want to say I be part of this conversation, coffee meeting, because I think that all the young people have energy and power. They can change everything. But if they don't use their energy and their power, means they don't appreciate their value that they have inside themselves. So it's important to be active in everything, all the young people to be active in everything. So they can they cannot change their past, but they can live their present and they can create their future by their energy.
Thank you very much, Mark. This is in the true spirit of the International Youth Day, the message you just shared. So without losing time, I will give the floor to Dorina and Nigida to share their reflections and comments on the interventions just made by the participants.
Yeah, probably I could start a little bit, and then Dorina could, add. I truly, very truly, what has been said by Daniel and by Henry and all others who have, highlighted the issue of those who already have been vulnerable and marginalized. Of course, now they become more marginalized and more vulnerable. So, of course, the pandemic, they revealed the discrimination, made the discrimination more visible, and I mean, we always say now that the world will never be same as before. So we now see how actually how less we did for those who were most marginalized and vulnerable. And of course, the issue of the Roma young girl coming for the SRH need, access to healthcare services, this is all critical. But I also want to highlight that what is our role? And because we kind of we have this luxury right of or having this unique opportunity to change the world. So we are more or less healthy, we are more or less have access to resources, we have knowledge, we have education. So what we can do in terms of mitigating the risk, in terms of community outreach, in terms of making the access to improve access to technology, because we also have to acknowledge that those people who are from most vulnerable groups, they don't have access to education now because they don't have computers, they don't have iPads, they do not have internet. So how all this situation turned to the educational loss to those people. So how they could not do this alternate forms of education and access to information because of that, and what each of us can do in that sense. Of course, the issue of the young people with HIV who bear disproportionate burden of the global HIV epidemic, but also the COVID now, who are the greater risk of due to weak immune system and dependency on regular supplies for antiretroviral medication and other services, they have to be prioritized. The disruption of the normal delivery of sexual reproductive health services and information to young people, it's one of the paramount priority, I have to say, because when we look at the countries which have been affected, like for example China, even the normal population, not only young people, but even the middle-aged adult women, they had no access to reproductive health services. They were doing the antenatal care online, etc. So how this is even affected in the area for young people for whom it was always sensitive to go for the youth clinics, to talk openly about the contraceptives, how this is even becoming even more difficult. And one more thing that I want to emphasize is that young people represent a valuable resource and network during the crisis. So let's see what each of us can do in that sense. We as an organization and you as representatives of young people, those who are delegates, who are those who leading organization, those who are leading the community groups, etc. And final point on the young people with disabilities. Absolutely. I mean, we work very closely with the Paralympic committee and Paralympics, different organizations who support people with disabilities. And the slogan that we use jointly is the revolution is inclusion. So inclusion of those who have limited abilities, inclusion those who have limited access, etc. So let's look into that, what we can do as, be part of this powerful new generation that celebrates.
Yeah, sorry, can I say something? Sorry.
Absolutely. Sure.
About the Paralympic sport organization for disabled people. Here I ask here because I was a sport player before. I had accident with car, and I am problem with my eyes. I asked about these sport activities for disabled people, but they said to me the Olympic things, Paralympic things for disabled people is just for autistic people. So they didn't make me join with them for any kind of this sport organization or sport activities. Sorry.
Yes, let me, I mean, of course, I have limited knowledge in terms of the internal procedures of the Paralympics Committee, but let me also, you know, explain that mostly they work with specific organizations which are assigned to be partners of the Paralympic Committee. So we could facilitate your dialogue further with them if needed, but I think there should be some representation in Albania as a partner organization with Paralympic Committee. We could check on that, and then probably you could be connected through them as well. I think that's so. Once again, just to highlight that. So let's celebrate all social, ethnical, gender, age, physical differences, and advocate for rights for all, and you know, make sure that inclusion is part of the normal process. Over to Dorina and Christy and others.
Thank you, Nigina, and I think that you have raised and covered most of the points, but I just wanted to discuss a little bit and reflect on, especially on what Henry brought, very important. I've been very in close communication with colleagues from the Infectious Disease Hospital, from the Institute of Public Health, when it comes to ARV treatment for HIV positive patients in the country, including here young people living with HIV, and the challenges faced by the system and the challenges faced by the patients in terms of receiving services. And this pandemic definitely brought into light issues that we're facing in terms of organization of services. So I'm definitely confident that our Ministry of Health and Social Protection has learned many lessons, especially during these months. And some actions are going to be taken in decentralization of services, including treatment for HIV positive patients, including treatment for COVID-19 patients, because it cannot be managed everything at central level in Tirana. And I remember those months, and I totally agree with Henry, those months where we were so much restricted to move in the country, to move in the city, and not imagining in other districts. It was totally impossible. And we were receiving even calls from people living with HIV on how they were supposed to get the treatment. And even the fact that we do not have, let's say, the flexibility of giving the regime for more than 1 month, that was as well as not possible for HIV positive patients. But I should say that the National HIV Program and some very dedicated professionals working in there have taken all the measures in ensuring that the treatment was reaching HIV patients, AIDS patients in all the regions of the country. But it was very challenging. I would like to go back to what Nigina has highlighted. The system, not only Albanian health system, I believe that many countries in the world are facing big challenges when it comes to resources, financial and human resources in addressing all the priority areas in the health sector. And it's amazing what we all are doing and what the healthcare providers are doing in ensuring that services are provided to all population groups, even under these circumstances. For us, it was not easy at all because we were not used with that much, especially the old school of doctors in providing counseling online, in providing services online, as Nigina has said. I mean, providing antenatal care services and counseling online, or I mean, doing the work mainly via telephones and computers, it's not like that familiar for our doctors and nurses, especially those working in rural and remote areas of the country. But they managed to adapt quite quickly. And I should say that even the Ministry of Health and Social Protection has taken all the measures in maximizing the infrastructure and what we have in the country, as telemedicine, for example, in ensuring that we were reaching with advice, professional advice, counseling information, and even services from Tirana to other regions, and even supporting the providers in other districts of the country. Definitely, as I said at the beginning, this has been a period of time where all of us have learned many lessons that we have to work hard in addressing in our future work and for, prioritizing in future initiatives. But each of us has a role to play. Each of us has a mission to fulfill. So even if we do our part in our everyday life, not only as, for example, as a UNFPA staff, no, as Dorina, as an Albanian woman living in this reality, I can help and I can support a certain number of people around me who live close by, who face particular challenges. All of us have family members who are fighting their struggles in life. All of us have neighbors who are living many challenges, especially in the context of COVID-19. And each of us has a role to play. Each of us can be like an active citizen in supporting others who are facing more critical challenges, especially in this context. And among you, I know many of you, and you're so active and so, you are really brilliant as young people. But I would really like to highlight the importance of being an active citizen. And I would like to hear more from you on what you've been doing during these months in support of other vulnerable groups in the society, being young people, being elderly, being vulnerable women. And for example, I don't want to put the finger, but I would like to hear from Andy and from other young people who have been so active during these months and so supportive to other vulnerable groups in the society. So thank you very much, Henry, for raising those very important points. And we'll keep on discussing on those. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nigina and Dorina, for your reflections and comments on the interventions. I would also join you in the call to ask the participants to think of ways and share with us ways in which they can engage and they can participate also in policy making and policy shaping regarding these issues. COVID-19 pandemic highlighted all these problems, structural problems, institutional problems that were there, because also the exclusion of marginalized groups from policy discussions and from actively participating. So my invitation for the participants is to share these kind of thoughts. What can we do regarding horizontal, let's say, approach, but also a vertical approach? So how can we approach institutions, and what can we, as youngsters, boost our engagement and activism through sharing positive role models? I see that Daniel, followed by Alind, have a floor. So Daniel, you may take the floor for 2 minutes.
Okay, I'll start what we have been doing during the pandemic and how we have been helping the community, as Dorina mentioned before. Actually, Roma Active Albania, we as an organization, we have been working with the region of in Girocastra. So we seen that because we are in different organizations, so we think that different organizations are helping different communities in different cities. So we saw that in Girocastra, there was no help. There were the municipality was not helping those communities. So what we did, we shared, we gave 100 packages of food for Roma families in Girocastra, and also myself as a national Roma youth coordinator, we have our contact points in young people in different cities. We have seen that children have they had a lot of problems doing their homeworks because their parents couldn't help them during the pandemic because they are not educated themselves. So children were facing a lot of problems doing their homework. So what we did, we engaged those youngsters that we have in different cities to help the children doing their homework, and also about the online classes. But also I wanted to mention, because Dr. Abaszadeh mentioned that for example, in the case of Albania, we have seen that our teachers were not prepared about this way of learning online, of teaching online, and also the children were not prepared about that. But also, we have seen myself. I have seen a real case with my niece. My sister couldn't help her because she's not educated herself, and so luckily I was in my hometown, so I could help my niece doing her homework. But what I have seen is that the teacher, her teacher was kind of like excluding her. So it gave me the real picture what is happening in class. It gave me through online. So my niece would do the homework, would send by pictures to the teacher, and she would not pay attention to her. So in one point, we had seen what really is happening in the class. I mean, she's not, the teacher, she's not paying attention to my niece in class and online. So I had to work and also in a way have a discussion with the teacher, because you have to treat your students equally, all of them. And also what Dr. Abaszadeh said, many of the children and a lot of people from the Roma community, they don't have access to tablets, to phones. So most of the children were couldn't attend the online teaching, online learning, because they couldn't, they didn't had access on those. So what you mentioned, what we could do, we have to in a way push the institutions to do better their job and to be close to the communities, and ourselves is to help the community, as Dorina said.
Thank you very much, Daniel, for your remarks. I will now give the floor to Arlind.
So can you hear me all? Okay, super. So hello, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here today with all of you. My name is Arlind, and I'm a high school student here in Tirana. Also, I'm part of many international and youth organizations in Tirana, one of them, which is the United Nations Youth Association of Albania. So first of all, I'd like to start that, yes, we all know that today is the International Youth Day, but in fact, each day of the year should be the International Youth Day. So each day of the year should be a day where youths can raise their voice and their opinions about certain issues and certain problems that are affecting the world. And now we're doing this online with not too normal circumstances due to the COVID pandemic, and it has caused many problems, not only the educational part, but also in the economical and social part of the world. And what I would like to mention is what we have done and what I have done personally during the pandemic, and also in this months of summer, during summer vacations. So first of all, regarding the online lesson we had, I think that wasn't really effective, as we don't have a really balance between teaching and also testing this online way of learning. So for this reason, I think that all what we have to do, and especially international organization and government have to do, is that if we continue to study online, we have to find a balance and a way how to test this online learning. And for this reason, it's going to be really efficient and also really effective for all. What other thing that I would like to mention, what I've done personally is an online app together with Stanford University and together with US Embassy here in Albania. So I am a student, high school student in the second year of high school that loves programming. And for this reason, I thought that using my technological skills and programming skills for helping children all over Albania, but also in the region, that to find a better way of learning and also to have this online way of learning much easier than the others is going to be an online app. And what we have created is an online app called Studentor, where children can access all their lessons online without needing a necessary teacher for them. And also they have their homeworks or exercises to test themselves. So it's really efficient, especially for a country like Albania. But yes, we have created this app, but in the same time, we have to ensure that all these children and youths have access to internet and technological devices. So what I have done also is, together with American Corner, Tirana, and US Embassy, we have done petition in order to ensure all the students, especially in the villages, to have technological devices and also internet access. What they can do is, for example, in their youth centers for each village or city, they can have specific computers, laptops, and internet access so they can access their homeworks there. And yes, and the last thing I've done is also, which I'm doing in the moment also is continuing, is a report for the vaccines that are being produced or testing all over the world. And we are making a report for Albania together with the Biotechnology Institute of Stanford University and together with Apoga University. So I think this is going to be really good, especially for letting all Albanians and youths to know what is the vaccine and how can they prevent COVID-19 with better and take better measures. Last thing I would like to add is that, yeah, we have to keep in mind that we are all different, but we are all
We are all different, but we are all the same.
Yes. Unfortunately, I see a connection problem with Arlind. I hope the problem will be resolved soon and he can take the floor later during the next sections. So I will give now the floor to the last intervention for this subtopic to Clyde. Clyde, you have the floor for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Christy. Okay, so for those who don't know me, I'm Clyde Kaziu and currently acting as Secretary General at the UN Association in Albania. Well, actually, I'd like to connect my my intervention with both of the subtopics because I believe similarly young people of our societies and also young key population, marginalized groups within our young population both represent actually subgroups of our Albanian society, and in one sense or the other, we have to find a way on how these groups actually act in our society. So I believe my intervention might be useful and adapt to both the questions. So actually, in what I wanted to mention a lot is actually a dilemma or a question which I had also with myself, and I believe most of us who critically and analytically think about the realm we live in actually have this dilemma, and maybe we can help each other on trying to solve it or come to a common understanding on it. And I believe it has to do a lot on how we actually deal and how we actually relate to these different subgroups. As Ms. Dorina mentioned in the beginning, of the transgender person who actually claimed and asked from the others not to refer to them anymore as hard to reach people, but actually to refer to them as they refer to any other subgroup in the society. So I believe this has a lot to do with the approach that we try to adapt in our behavior. And since we are talking in a policy or systemic level, I believe this is very much related to it. So we try to follow, to integrate these subgroups in our society. We try to follow rather a segregationist approach, or let's say like an approach which tries to emphasize the gaps that exist, which is the example of quotas, for example. And it's the same thing, it's the same approach that we use also in women's empowerment and inclusion in our systems, in our institutions, where we try to use the quotas as a mechanism to include them. But in one way or another, these quotas in their mere sense are rather segregationist approach, because they try to emphasize the gap that exists, the differences that exist, and try to forcefully include a group of the society and represent them within our institutions. So this is one approach, but then comes the other approach, which theoretically seems more beautiful, is the more of an integrationist approach, where we try to, where all our efforts of the society should be put on creating a level playing ground for all the subgroups to act and to compete and to be engaged in the society in our realm. So this is much more beautiful in theory, but then when you come in practice, then you have to think on how you do it and how you deal with it. So my dilemma, and I don't know if the UNFPA representatives that we have here or other participants have a say on it, is actually what's the best thing that we can do? Should we actually follow these quota mechanisms and other mechanisms which try to actually emphasize the difference that exists within the different subgroups of the society, so within the young people and the elderly people, or within the marginalized groups within the young people and the rest of the young people? So should we try to do this sort of forced representation of these groups in our discussions and policy making process? Should we try to create the conditions for them to participate rather than forcing some people who represent them to be active in the policy making process? So I believe I don't have an answer to it. I just wanted to point this out. I know it's something we cannot solve either in one coffee talk, either in one governmental term or other. But it's something that I believe it has to do a lot on what approach we try to follow and where we try to focus our resources and efforts, to create a level playing ground, or just to maintain the differences, to put in quotas and just bringing their voice in the institutions, but neither decreasing the barriers that they have in actually actively participating in them. So I'd love to hear your opinions on that from Nigina, Dorina, Elida, and all the other participants, if we have time, of course. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Clyde, for your remarks. Now I will immediately give the floor to Nigina and Dorina to reflect on the comments made by the participants.
Yes, obviously, I mean, of course, thank you very much, Clyde, for raising the issue of segregation approach. Absolutely. I mean, this is, I guess, like how we learned to structure our mind, and how we learned also structuring our programs and everything that we do. And I hear what you say about focusing more on integration and creating enabling environment for people, for different groups of people, with different views, different opinions, different, lifestyle, to feel them free and safe in terms of demonstrating their differences, raising their voice, be part of the process, raising the issues, and being part of the decision making. I think we have a lot to do in that regard, and not only us as UNFPA, but many other international organizations that are working in terms of, with working with the marginalized and vulnerable groups, of course. That's a lot. And I also wanted to echo on what has been said by also about the participation of the of Roma girls, what was said by in terms of I want to highlight that the actual social norms is one of the things that restricts our thinking and the developments, and these social norms are in our minds, in our mindset, etc. So if a Roma girl is let's say that neglected in the class, or not giving enough space, not giving enough visibility, of course this comes from the background of the social norms that we have to take efforts to address them and to change them. And I think that in that sense that that's what I was telling about the being as active agents of change. This is very important. So just to highlight on that. So each of us has a role on that. Thank you for that. Over.
I don't know if Dorina wants to add something.
In fact, Christy, to leave more time, Nigina highlighted the most important points, and I don't want to take more time from other young people. I was reading to what our wonderful Andy has wrote in the chat box, and I would really like to give floor to more young people to share their perceptions, their points of view on what each of us can do in the future, can do now and in the future to address the most pressing issues we're facing. And thank you very much, Clyde. A very valuable contribution to this coffee talk. So, Christy, I don't have any very important point to raise at this moment, but I would like to give the floor to Andy and other colleagues, maybe to share their views even by talking to the forum, because there are so many important and valid points that have been raised in the chat box.
Of course. I will now give the floor to Gladiola to moderate the second session, so the subtopic, entering to the second subtopic. Clyde and you all made some intervention that shifted a bit or connected the two subtopics one with another. So now I give the floor to Gladiola to present it, and also some of the findings that we have from the application forms that you submitted. Gladiola, back to you.
Thank you, Christy. I'm Gladiola, the co-moderator of this event. This time I would like to bring the attention to another important topic that was mentioned by Clyde previously, youth participation in formal political mechanisms. According to a survey we sent on your frame of reference, 80% of young Albanians feel disengaged from formal political mechanisms, either as political members or activists. On the contrary, it was quite interesting to see the findings on your application form, where the vast majority of you mentioned that they are willing to participate in formal political mechanisms and they have considered their participation. We would like to know more about your experience and what pushes you to participate in formal political mechanisms. Also, we would like to know some of your ideas, how we can boost the participation of young people in such government institutions. And also, is there a way to introduce temporary youth quotas in local councils or parliaments? Now the floor is open. Now the first introduction of the topic will be made by Ms. Nouri and Ms. Totay. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Gladiola. Do you hear me? Yeah, okay. So first I would like to start viewing also the comments that are very serious looking, probably because of the issues that we're discussing about. So maybe we should smile more and show your energy more. Coming to the point, I will be very brief because I'm really interested to dialogue with all of you what you think. I hope that all of you, if not maybe some of you, know that there is a youth law already passed by the parliament in last November. So this youth law already makes some provisions about youth engagement, not only in political processes, but more so on social and civic engagement, which is very important. Now, what UNFPA is doing is, together with our Youth Voice Network and our youth organizations we work with, and I hope that you as United Nations Albania Association and the other organization representatives that are part here can really contribute and participate in the review of the bylaws. So this is a very, very important process. The law was consulted widely with young people and was passed and was developed as a result of the advocacy of young people and youth organizations. What we did is facilitated broader consultations all over Albania, but also bringing the voice of the most vulnerable and those hard to reach young people or young key populations. Of course, the law can have, let's say, some way of implementation, the importance is it is well implemented at municipal level, at local level. And this is where your engagement and your participation is highly appreciated and should be there. Maybe most of you are based in Tirana, but look into ways how you can engage with young people at municipal, at local level, how you can ensure this quota that you are very rightly putting there, because the youth council at municipal level, it's a must by law, and it will be approved by law very soon. And all our work is how to best implement it at local level. So you can do a lot. You can associate with the local youth organizations, with local young people who don't necessarily know how to be organized, who are not necessarily well structured, but this does not mean that they should not participate. And you, as a lead part of young people who have maybe more education, who have more access, who know more, because you have more information also at national and international level, can help them voice their needs at local level, can help them become part of the youth councils, can help them know the law, the youth law, what the provisions are, and how best they can implement, and how best they can demand the right for this youth law to be implemented where they are, in their communities, in their municipality. So there is lots you can do. You can take action, and I really, I'm glad to hear that some of you are taking action and are doing very good things. You can share information. You can also fight misinformation. There is so much misinformation going on. And you, as well educated and who have more access to correct information, can do it. I want to stop here. I want to listen to you. If you have questions, if you have comments, if you have ideas on how best you can help or can assist, or what you can do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Nori, for such an insightful point. Now it's time for Angelina to have her time for 2 minutes.
Okay, first of all, I don't know if you can hear me well. Okay. Is it okay? My name is Angelina. I'm 22 years old, and I'm currently attending Masters in Industrial Chemistry at the University of Milan. What I wanted to say regarding this topic, so the youth engagement in policy making, there was actually a study conducted in 2015 in Albania that it showed that Albania is actually one of the countries with the lowest participation of youth in politics. And I think, I'm not really sure regarding 2020 and 2019 on how that has changed regarding youth participation. But I think that that shows a lot regarding our country. We're one of the countries in Europe or that has a young population, one of the highest young population that Europe countries have. And regarding the participation part, that we're actually the lowest country, that is kind of contradictory, like it's in contradict with one another. And I think that this comes due to the fact that there are limited opportunities for effective participation in policymaking for youth. And also, I think that there are many NGOs that encourage young people to participate in policymaking, but young people don't really have the approach to them. I've been a volunteer with the Albanian Red Cross for more than 5 years, and we have young people that want to engage with our organization. But what about policymaking NGOs? Are they really out there? Are they asking for youth to actually go and engage with them? At least I haven't come in contact with any of these NGOs. And there is also another study that was conducted regarding the engagement of people in politics. And there was about 21.9% that said that people don't have information that engaging in politics, you can engage in politics without actually being part in a political party. And also 24.1%, it says that engaging in politics, you don't have to be engaged with a political party. And there isn't information that I think for young people, they pull themselves back when it comes to engaging in these policy makings, NGOs, or like political parties, because they think that if they engage themselves with policy making, they will have to be engaged with a political party. And as we know, politics in Albania, they have a negative aspect or a negative opinion when it comes to them. So I think one of these parts need to be reflected upon, and we need to see that like what's really out there and what's wrong with it for us that we don't understand, and why aren't young people engaging themselves in policy making, which is really, really important because young people need to be represented in the parliament as well. Yeah, that's my point. I hope I was clear. So yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Now it's time for RC to have his point for 2 minutes.
Hi, hello everyone. This is Arsil. I am currently a student of European Studies. And I actually wanted to follow up on what Angelina said, but also other stuff that were mentioned previously about the youth engagement and the youth being role models in the society. And I would like to mention the fact that actually we have seen some build-up energy on the youth here in Albania, especially in the recent years. We could also notice that during the two back-to-back crises we had, like the earthquake first and then the pandemics. At the very beginning, it was the youth who actually wanted to volunteer, go towards people who did not have access to food or other emergency equipments. But I unfortunately also noticed, I don't have the statistics probably as Angelina had, but I could notice that they really, that's all what they're doing. They cannot make that substantial step from activism or from volunteering to the actual decision-making processes. I see that they have the energy. It's actually turning to a frustrating element for the youth in Albania, as they have the energy, but they cannot get through with it. They cannot take it out there and see substantial change as they would wish to see it. So this is a problem, and I don't know whether the quotas are a solution to it, or how to engage further the youth in the decision making, and also in the implementation of such policies, because that's also very important. But I see that there's a lot of will, there's a lot of energy, but it's not being, it's not going to the decision-making processes. That would be my remark for now. I would like to follow up in a discussion regarding this. Thank you.
Thank you, Arsid, for making your point. Now it's time for Arlene to have his space.
Yeah, thank you, Gladiola. I'm just going to make a short point regarding the possibilities of and opportunities that Albania offers regarding youth activities and extracurriculars, especially on engaging youth in formal policy making. So I see as a high school student, as I'm in a private high school and not in a public high school, that still we don't have the right management and the right curricula that teach students not only to learn, but also to engage with other things such as extracurriculars, and also to be volunteering in a society. And for this reason, I think that's a really big problem and makes us really hard to be engaged in such activities. So we have to search by ourselves and not by advisors or our teachers that are going to tell us, look, you have to participate here, or you can participate here because you have so many possibilities in Albania. And that makes us really lazy, like a generation, in terms that we don't have time, for example, to be engaged in an activity, but we have time for games or for video games or to go out with our friends. And then we are taught by our parents that, look, you have to participate in this formal policy making, you have to volunteer, you have to participate in these extracurricular activities and organizations, because in the end, after you apply for university, these are going to be really valuable in your application, but not only in your real life. So that's how Albania works and Albania family works mostly. And I just wanted to ask you, how can we change that in order to make it more general and to make also schools and teachers conscious that they have to teach students and they have to advise students on how to participate in this form of policy making. Thank you.
Thank you, Arlene, for making your point. Now it's time for Angelina to make a short intervention before we give it to the speakers.
I just wanted to mention, because I mentioned before the parliament, there is actually the youth parliament in Tirana that was created in 2018 by CRACA and also the Ministry of Education. The problem is that, okay, there are about 5 students for every high school, and in total there are about 220 students that participate in this youth parliament. The problem with it is that I really can't find information if the points that the young students that are participating in this parliament, are they actually being incorporated in the parliament of our country? So like, okay, there is this youth parliament, but the points that are taken from this youth parliament, do they actually go to the parliament that, I don't know, leads the country and everything? And I try to search on it, but I really can't find information regarding that part. So if someone would have information to share, that would be great also.
Thank you, Angelina. Now, so the conversation is not overwhelming. Ms. Nouri and Ms. Tocha, if you can have the word.
Thank you. I have a quick, I don't know whether they will be answers, but quick reflections on 3 main points that were brought up. And thank you very much to the young people for bringing them. So first of all, political engagement. I totally agree. You don't have to be a member of a political party to be engaged in what's going on. And policies are there for people, to assist, to help people have a better life, have a well-being. So policies are developed by a government, but also in broad consultation with civil society organizations in order to improve things. So my advice, and from what I know, would be, don't wait to be affiliated to a political party. Don't wait. If you are mobilized or structured in a youth organization, it's even better because you bring many youth voices together in a structured way. But even if you have something to say as a young individual, there are ways, there are channels to do that. First of all, we as UN, this is exactly what we can do. We can facilitate these dialogues. We can provide you access to the right institutions, so we can help you or assist or be there with you to facilitate this dialogue, to facilitate these platforms. We as UN, as UNFPA, are here to also support your ideas. If you have an idea, if you have an advocacy cause, we are there by your side to support you and with you to protect this cause and to bring your voices to those who can do something, to those who are the key to develop the policy, to implement the policy. But the policy does not only belong to the government or to an institution. The policy belongs to everybody. It belongs to you. And it is primarily you as young people or as civil society who can best implement it. And if there is something that is not going well and it's wrong and should be reviewed and changed, it's again up to you to say it. Coming to the third point, and I'm not skipping the second point, but I'm going to the third point because they are linked. The ministry which deals with youth issues, you know, is the Ministry of Education, Sport and Youth. And they have a separate department which must deal with young people's issues, who is responsible to develop policies with young people and for young people, who is responsible to also monitor and oversight the implementation of the youth law, which is very newly approved. Now, what you can do is access the information on the ministry webpage. If you don't have that, again, we as UN agencies or as UNFPA can facilitate your access. It should be public, actually. There is no reason why such information cannot be public. But we can facilitate the dialogue. If not all the information is there, if there are things missing, here is our role to support you and to go to the ministry, to the institution together with you to open up the access to this information, to improve this information. Because I'm sure you also have lots of information from the ground that the ministry does not necessarily have. But I know that the ministry wants to have this information. The youth law makes provision for the establishment of a database of all youth organizations, of all youth activists. And having this database will also facilitate structuring all the information of all activities, all activism, all initiatives that are happening at national level, but also at local level. So here again is something that you can do by engaging. And we as UNFPA can facilitate this coordination. Now, the second point, again, was about how to ensure access and how to ensure activism at local level, if I'm not mistaken. Again, I very much want you as leaders, because I consider you, especially participants in this coffee talk, as elite of young people, because you have access to information, because you have access to technology, to internet, because you have access to the youth organizations. Reflect a bit about those young people who don't necessarily have all these three accesses that you have. So what happens to them? Who brings their voices to the policymakers? Who brings their voices to the municipality, which is the first responsible institution that should address their needs? Who brings their voices either through the Youth Council, which is established in some of the local government units, but even worse, in municipalities that don't have youth councils. So all these questions make us reflect, and you might come up with ideas how and when and what you can do. So we can think big, Agenda 2030, SDGs, but come to the ground. Think of little steps, because trust me, doing bit by bit and little steps, but in a very structured way and continuously, will help make it a real big thing and a change, even in a small community or in a municipality or at national level. I hope I have replied, but please, if you have more questions, and we are there, we as UNFPA, but also as UN agencies, we are there for you, to support you, and we are your allies.
Thank you, Ms. Nouri, for such an insightful point and encouraging as well. Now it's time for Andy to have his say.
I hope that you can hear me, because I had a problem with the audio. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. I know some of you. I'm Andy Rabia. I'm Executive Director of Youth Voice Network of organization in Albania, supported by UNFPA for more than 4 years now. In the same time, I'm focal point in charge for YPeer Network, one of the, let's say, only network in Albania that has in their base peer educators, supported part of the UNFPA youth program and supported by UNFPA for more than, I don't know exactly how many years. But what I want to say that all of us were speaking from our fancy rooms, from our fancy offices, but in fact, what Lida said, that what are young people facing from Roma community, LGBT community, rural community, that they are part of undeserved communities around Albania, and not only, that are not part of us, of this meeting. For sure that they want access in the internet, they want to be engaged, they don't know about us, they don't know.
Even disabled people, even disabled people,
for
we
sure
are not support nothing.
yeah, I don't want to say nothing, but I am speaking about engagement. They want to be active in the society, but they don't have the right path to do it. For more than 7 years, I'm working in the local level, especially, and not only. That what I have noticed and I have seen that young people have the right motivation to be engaged, but they don't know how to do it. We are here to facilitate their path through engagement and activization in Albanian. I want to mention that in 2015, for the first time, young people in Albania had their youth national plan in national level. In 2017, for the first time, Tirana municipality has youth action plan of Tirana municipalities. Now we are working for the youth budget in more than 12 municipalities in Albania, and what we have seen that more and more young people want to be engaged. But after the COVID-19 pandemic situation, we said that the future is online, but only for us is online, not for the young people that are living in this kind of condition. Left no one behind slogan of SDGs, I'm thinking that now will not stand in this case, because working online for young people as us, and not only that are part, we have internet, we have good smartphones, laptop, we have some money to pay for internet, not all the young people. Daniel can support me in this case because I have a lot of friends and peer educated from Roma community, and their concern is that in this kind of situation, they will not be part of our young group, young activization and young engagement, not only in local level, but in national level. As I remember in 2014, I was part of young people that were part of the Youth Voice campaign. As a leader, you can remember in this period, part of Millennium Young People Group, let's say, going through to SDGs Young People Groups. But we have created SDGs in order not to leave behind the young people. But in this case, us as young leaders, we should take our role in society to work with young people, going in local level, going in face-to-face meetings, not only in online meetings, and not only from our perspective and our fancy room and offices. This is my concern, in fact, and just to keep in mind in our daily life that as a young people, we are privileged in this case, and we should take care for the young people that are not privileged in society. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andy. Now it's time for Marek to have his say, but keep in mind, please, only 2 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Gladiola. So I am Marek, and I want to say some things to Elinda Nuri, and to Angelina. About Elinda, I want to say, Elinda, if we will have me and all the disabled, even the young, even the all disabled person in Albania, because there are thousands of them, young disabled person in Albania, if we will have them supports of the organization to make up their voice, because we talked even before about law, but in one of the training that I made before, in one organization, we know that Albania have one of the, is in the 6th place for the best law in the world, but the respect of the law is 0. In Albania is 0. They do not respect the law. First, they don't respect the law about to put in job disabled people, even in government institution, even in private companies. We are not in job. They don't apply this law. Second, the institution, the government make another law that is not again respected, a law for all the disabled people, and even the women that are, have problems, even not physical problems, but discrimination in these things, even for the minority, they will pay every month the minimum payment, 260 lakh in Albania, but no one gives to them. Even this law is not respected. even the supports for different activities, for the activities, cultural or sportive activities for disabled people in all Albania, not just for Tehran, but in all Albania. I am from Durrës. And something else that I want to say now to Angelina about, she said that we have to be part of the government, but not to be part of government, but to be able in government policies or government laws to be active. Of course, I agree with Angelina. And I think that must be part of parliament, even one person disabled, even more women part of parliament, because we have to be equal, even women, even men, even represent even a minority of Rome community or of Egyptian community to be part of parliament, because the parliament people are not just people that we vote for them and they stay there to make a law and to take the money and to make their life. But the parliament represents all the people of this Albania, and they have to represent even the women, even the minority of Rome and Egyptian, even the disabled people. Even they are not doing nothing, all the law that have before as nothing respected, but to have people to make these laws and to respect these laws and to make up the voice of all the needs of human, of the young people, of the disabled people, human rights, even of a minority of Egyptian and Rome. These things I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Marek. Now it's
if I can have an answer from Elida and Angelina, if they agree to about these things and the question that I make to Elida. Sorry. Thank you.
Now it's time for the last intervention that will be made by Mylinda. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. I'm Mylinda, the Youth Network Voice Coordinator. And thank you very much for all your thoughts and all the opinions in this meeting. One of the things that I see important in this meeting is that working with young people is very important, but we have to take in focus that young people from rural areas or from disadvantaged groups are very difficult to reach, as Elida said before and as Andy said before. But I have a recommendation for the organizations. It is very important that we know the work that we do with young people all over Albania, because it's something that we can have a project, one of our organizations, working with young people and creating a youth council and something that young people could be represented and could be part of local policies. But this is something that remains in that project. And in the moment that the project ends, it's something that doesn't have continuity anymore. It's very important for me that we as networks of organizations and as organizations, youth organizations, could collaborate more with each other, and we can know that which of this organization does with local young people and in all the parts of Albania. With this kind of network, I think that things could be better, and these young people from rural communities and from disadvantaged communities or groups could be more represented. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mylinda. Now it's time for the last wrap up of the discussion. Elida, if you can have the floor, please.
Thank you very much for all the comments, reflections, and thank you, Marek. If I understood well, your question is how you can have access to employment, to institutions, government institutions. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Even to have the support of the organization, but even to have the support, not just me, even I have the university as best student, these things, etc., but even for all Albanian disabled persons and young in the Albania that need all to be respected the law, to them all to be employed in job, even to be active in different organizations, different cultural things.
Okay, yes, I understand.
To live their life, because they have the value to live their life, not just to stay at home as a disabled person.
You're completely right. I'm totally with you. And I also understand, and I'm an Albanian, so I know the biggest challenge in Albania is the right implementation of the laws. Like you also said, we have good laws, but implementation is key. And that's why I mentioned it a couple of times. We depend on you. We depend on people to demand the rights that they have by laws, by policies, and to also to implement them, and to also monitor such implementation. If it's not happening, we should again raise our voices with the institutions, with the policymakers, even in the parliament. So again, what we as UN agencies can do is we can facilitate this coordination. We can facilitate access even to the parliament. We can jointly organize a hearing session where you as young people can demand what's going wrong, what's not being implemented, what should be improved. On the other side, what I really ask you to do is read the youth law. Be there in the consultations for the bylaws, because they are what make the law implementable. And let's discuss again how best each of you as an individual, but also as an organization, can do through ideas, through specific interventions, and then we'll all see how best to support you implement it. I hope I've been clear, but there are so many ways. That's why we want to hear from you. We also want proposals, ideas from you as activists, how best these policies can be. Yes.
Can I say, sorry that I interrupt
you. Yes.
Can I say something? Because you say to us, even to me, to be active. I have tried to be active to put up the voice of the disabled people, even different minorities, and for the women and the girls that needs. I have talked even with the ex-governor of Durrës, Valbona Sacco, even with the ambassador of France, even with the director of Council of Europe in all Europe, and they agree with me, not just with me, but all the disabled people, that if we are part of the Europe consulting, we have to take care and to make our eyes on the disabled people, on the human rights, even the minority rights, even to students, young people rights, but is doing nothing. Even I was part of another training that was some political nuance, 2 or 3 political nuance, and one of them say, Czech Marek is more able than all you, the director, because I have some director there, even of organization, even of government institution, he is more able. But the point, not to make me a compliment, but if I'm more able, why I'm not in job? Okay. Why I'm not
fully understand? Like fully understand. So not to keep everybody, here is what I propose. We can continue this conversation together, and I'll share, or Christy can share my contacts or my agency, UNFPA contacts. We also have our youth network that we can discuss further. UN is implementing a Leave No One Behind project at municipal level. So there are all ways and modes of cooperation. So let us continue this conversation later. Thank you.
Yes, if I can have a contact with you, okay? Because I want to go even to the parliament.
Okay, sure.
Thank you so much. Because I'm trying even in an art way with songs and poems to go up and to make up the voice of these disabled people, even the minorities and all that. Thank you.
Una organization will share my contact or UNFPA contacts, and we can catch up. Thank you.
Yeah, let me also say a few words here, Elida and Marek and other colleagues. So just to highlight that what I said at the very beginning, nothing for young people without young people. So we come again and again to that point, like what you said, that how young people be part of the you know, decision making, consultations, etc. So we adults, we always, as adults, we always think that we know everything. We know what young people need. We make decisions on their behalf. And you know, how right is this without considering their voices, what they, so we just make our own assumption on our own adult thinking, and what exactly is there is not exactly what they need. So absolutely. This untapped potential that was highlighted by Arlene, the volunteerism issue turned into personal benefit, and the issue of young people with disabilities and overall people with disabilities. This is not just issue of Albania, of course. It's the situation of in every single country, and of course some countries they had a better progress and others are not. It should not stop us of making you know, efforts in that area. And yes, absolutely, I mean, we have to team up around that. And I think that when we work about people with disabilities, many agencies have to come together, because like it has a lot to do with employment, and then we also have UNDP and other colleagues. It has a lot to do with education and you know, accessibility to education. Then UNICEF and other colleagues should come up. And so I think it's very much, you have to be like joint UN approach in that sense, rather than one agency. But I hope that ELIDA will help in that sense, in terms of consulting this on the UNCT level with other UN agencies also. So over to you. I'm muting myself not to distract you completely.
Thank you, Ms. Nouri, Ms. Tolcay, and Ms. Abaszadeh, and to all the participants for the very insightful interventions. Now it's time to move to the third subtopic, which is not completely unrelated. So if you make a point during this subtopic, you can make it on the other subtopic. The third subtopic will be introduced by Christy.
Thank you, Gladiola. Before I introduce the third subtopic, I just want to say to ELIDA that we as UNA have consulted the bylaws on law and youth and have already sent the recommendation to the ministry. It went up to 14 pages, I think, because there are a lot of improvements that can be made. And we will also take opportunity and take this occasion to share it with you and see how we can positively push and influence the ministry to take account of the recommendations that the youth sectors and youth organizations have made on these such important bylaws. So the third subtopic, which will conclude this coffee talk, and I'm pleased to see that everybody wanted to speak, so we are actually running out of time, so I will ask for your patience to stay with us a little bit more. The third topic takes the conversation to a regional and global level. So it will revolve around the theme of how can we promote the agency of youth and the priorities of youth for sustaining peace in the ambit of SDG 16, which is peace, justice, and strong institutions, and the concept of sustaining peace formulated by the UN as a goal and a process in itself to create a common vision of how we, people from different countries, regions, but also communities, want to live together, and how to create this kind of vision that we have with each other's contribution. So I will like to open the floor now for your interventions, and you can focus on your participation in regional initiatives if you have had until now. What do you think is the role of youth in building strong institutions and sustaining peace? And then why is this regional cooperation so important, and how do you think this reflects back to national and local contexts? So I see that we have many people who want to speak, so right away I give the floor to Fiona.
Thank you, Christy, for the floor. As some of you might know, I'm one of the Albanian youth delegates to the United Nations for this year. And together with my colleague, we've heard some very interesting points made during the discussion, and we have kept notes in order to communicate together in future possibilities and also share more perceptions on what we have all discussed. during this time. We have, as delegates, we have an opportunity to collaborate at an international level. And we have also seen how important this is to make a better regional peace. I've had the opportunity to be part of some regional projects. And I can say that, especially for the context of Western Balkan 6, it's very important for youth to collaborate. We come from a difficult history, and luckily, most of us have lived through decades of peace, and we have grown with the idea of peace. So it is old to actually change the mentality of how older generations think about how peace should develop in our region. But it is also important that we as young people have an all different perception on collaborating together. I have met young people from Serbia, Bosnia, North Macedonia, etc. And I see that they are open and willing to make friendships. So also maybe mentioning some of the things that Council of Europe also supports, youth collaboration and exchange. It's very important. So I think that we should advocate more in order to make more youth exchanges. And this would also offer us a new way of perception. And it will also learn us on how and why it is so important to work together in the region. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fiona, for your remarks. I now give the floor to Grace.
Hello, everyone. Do you hear me? Okay, so I'm Grace. I'm 21, and I've been a peer educator, also a youth activist for quite a long time now, since I've been a teenager. And through my whole hearing all of your opinions, all of your experiences from young people and professionals as well, and connecting to my personal experience in this chain of youth empowerment, I feel like there is, of course, more and more to do. There is infinite ideas we can have as young people, but I'm pretty sure that we can find the right platform to address all of this. And there are a lot of opportunities. I'm not saying there are none, but young people are not attacked right by these opportunities. Like, they need a better platform to be addressed and to express themselves, their problems, in a way that they can help everyone else and to help the community and society they're living in. Lately, I've seen that platforms like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, of course, can be used in a really, really benefiting way, if used correctly, of course. Because as young people, we use platforms like this every day, every second, every minute. We're connected, like our whole lives are in the internet right now. And if we find a page, if we find an address where we can express our feelings, our problems every day, maybe we can raise our voice. And today we are like 25 people here in these coffee meetings, but maybe there are a lot of young people out there wanting to be here to share their ideas, and we need like a bigger circle. And connecting to more and more young people. As a white peer, I've been working mostly with teenagers, but recently I've had this idea that maybe it's better if we educate these persons since they are, for example, in the first grade, in the middle school, where they get the idea of empowering and being able to be more ambitious with their life, be more helpful to other people, and be more greater citizens for this planet, of course. And I think it's better to have this kind of gatherings so we can talk and share everything that we need. And basically, this is all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace. Now I give the floor to Andy for 2 minutes to express his opinions and remarks.
Yeah, thank you once again, Christy. What I want to say that how we contribute to regional and national and global level of addressing young people concern, needs, thoughts, everything they want is by engaging, and for sure. But as Gracie mentioned, that why not? We can start till in the early age of young people. For example, forcing informal education among young people till in the high school or earlier. But not only this, we can be part of different regional and globally youth network. For example, you mentioned SDG 16, youth, peace and security. Not before 3 weeks, RICO and UNFPA have organized a TOT training about the first generation of peer educator on youth, peace and security in Western Balkan countries, and for sure that it will help all the region, not only Albania and Albanians. It is everywhere in region now that they will have the first generation of this kind of peer educators or trainer that will roll out their skills and their thoughts about these topics around other young peer. Using peer-to-peer approach is one of the most effective methods of engagement, not only in local level but in regional and global level. Be part of different organizations like your organization and other organization is one of the great idea. But how they can find this kind of ways of engagement is just they should be promoted by us, sharing among young people, not only our work as individual and as organization, but the work of our colleagues of other organizations that they will find their opportunities to be engaged. That's all for the moment.
Thank you very much, Andy. I will now give the floor to Clyde. We will take one last intervention and then give the floor to the UNFPA Albania for their reflections and remarks. Clyde, you have the floor.
Thank you, Christy. Well, sorry. So the question in why youth can play an important role in regional cooperation and reconciliation and peace building efforts within the country and then in transboundary within the neighboring countries. So I believe that the main reason why youth shall be recognized and is starting to be recognized as a very important actor in peace building efforts is because, as Fiona mentioned, we were born in peace times, most of us, or at least in the end of the war or conflict times, and we were raised in a, let's say, in a stable environment where conflict in the most harsh sense of it was not present in our life. So we have not experienced it. So we don't have the hatred and the emotions that the previous generations, of course, had because they experienced such wars or were part of it. So that's one of the main reasons that we were not affected by war. So we don't inherit these patterns of hatred, or most of us, depending on how we were raised by our families. But most of us actually don't have this, have not lived with this sense of hatred and conflict. So we are the best generation on creating the connections, the cultural connections, the economic and political and societal connections between or the linguistic connections, which is very important actually. And we very much neglected in the Balkans, but the linguistic connections between our societies. So then we can create such connections that will prevent the raising of new conflicts in the future. So this is one of the, which is actually, I mean, we all agree in common sense is the main reason why the youth should be recognized as a very important actor, which can actually serve as the best basis for building peace for the present and for the near and the mid future. So this is the main advantage that youth has. But here comes the bigger and the most important actually problem or challenge, is better say, because we in the Balkans and in Albania a lot, and this also relates all to the domestic activism of youth, but let's say in general, we as youth lack this sense of understanding of ourselves as an interest group. And we have a big problem with interest groups in general in our societies because of being developing countries and societies. So we don't really understand that we can actually engage in politics without being part of political parties, as Elida mentioned. But we have to understand that we represent an interest group, and being an interest group means that we have to self-organize ourselves and to self-regulate and to self-empower and push ourselves in influencing the policy making, decision making, and the policy implementation afterwards. So we don't have this in Albania. We consider youth as a big strata, but we actually as youth expect from the others to provide us help and resources on self-organizing ourselves as an interest group and trying to influence and push our interests and ideas into the process of policy making. So this is a big issue. And this is, I think, the fundamental issue that we face. So unless we try to deal with this, and then how we try to deal with this, the project that Andy mentioned previously, which I was also part of it, is a very good way that UNFPA and RICO and the UN Peace Building Fund have found on how to build this. Because building an interest group of youth, first you have to understand and then to create the sense of a youth community between the young generation itself. So if the youth doesn't feel that they are part of this community, of a community of youth, of young people, which have common interests, which have common understanding and common demands from the governments and the other organizations which are involved in policy making. So if we don't have this sense of youth community, then we cannot actually claim to speak in the name of youth, or claim to actually use the term youth ideas or youth representation. Because if you don't have this community which gives you let's say either a vote mechanism or a support mechanism to actually name you as their representative, as their influencer in the policy making processes, then you cannot actually do anything you cannot actually express the voice and actually use such big numbers of youth population that we have in our countries that were mentioned by Nigina in the beginning. We have these big youth populations, but they don't actually think that they belong to a common youth community. And they don't think they belong to a common youth community means that they are not self-organized as an interest group. And if they are not self-organized in an interest group, it means that they cannot actually use this power leverage into influencing their ideas into the policy making process. So I believe we have to start from the beginning. We are actually at the beginning. We are the first step of trying to build this sense of belonging into a youth community, and then we have to work on the other stages. But we still have a lot of work to do. Me and all the others who will come after me and along with me. So this is my main insight on this question.
Thank you, Clyde, for your remarks. Now I will give the floor Ms. Nigina, Elida, or Dorina. You want to reflect on what the participants have just said on this third subtopic.
Yeah, I think that, many issues have been brought together, and of course that the SDG 16, which is on peace and security, that has direct connection to young people and participation of young people. I think that is important that we have the regional exchange of ideas and also being part of the global conversation. And I think that we have to also look at the beyond the traditional approach in terms of the conflict. So we can also look at the different types of violence, like violent crime, gender-based violence, political violence, terrorism. So this is all part of this, this issues related to the conflict. So, and I think an issue related to innovative partnership with local government, civil society, civic and women's organizations, building regional and global network, it's of course critical. I hope that program that with RICO and other UN agencies helps on that, and don't want to take too much time from colleagues because we're already late in that sense.
Elida or Dorina, if you want to add something.
Just a quick remark. Thank you, everybody, especially for being here today. And I'm sure most of you are on vacation, most probably. So Thank you for dedicating time. And this is a little sign that you are interested, that you want to be engaged. And we really appreciate it because we value your ideas, we value your brain. And like Nigina said, keep in mind, it's always a matter of choice. And it's okay to also be a member of the political party, Clyde.
Yeah.
It's your choice. But whatever you do, also think of the others, of those who don't have the opportunities, and help them. Help a neighbor, help a friend, help somebody that you don't know. And by doing this little thing, you have helped, you have given your contribution. Thank you, everybody.
Christy and colleagues, I also wanted to, to reflect a little bit on the closing because I was thinking the question was mainly related to SDG 16. But again, from my side, of course, I also want to thank each of you for for sharing your views and inspiring me and the whole UNFPA team actually for further work in terms of protecting young people's rights. And of course, I want us, all of us, leave with the question that what do you think each of us can do to bring social change? So, and from place you are now, as a student, as a community, a granddaughter, as an advocate for young people with disabilities, etc. And I think if each of us will ask this question to ourselves, we will come step by step through some changes. And I always remember that I use it very often in my talks to young people, that the quote from Nelson Mandela, who was saying that you can start changing our world for the better daily, no matter how small is the action. So just calling us to go for that and do like small pieces from each of us, and let's jointly advocate for revolution of choice, so every young person of Albania can fulfill their potential, meet their personal and professional aspirations, and build the life that they want to live in. So thank you very much again, and I hope you enjoyed the talk, and have a nice day. And thank you for having me today, of course. Thank you.
Christy,
Thank you very much.
Can I add something as well?
Of course, Dorina.
It's difficult to talk after all of you. And it has been very inspiring for me as well to hear your voices and to get the passion and the enthusiasm and the commitment that each of you has in bringing the change, the social change that Nigina is highlighting in Albania. And even I mean, this definitely has a broader impact. And I'm so happy and honored to be part of this coffee talk. And as one of you said, I don't remember who said that, maybe Clyde, I don't remember. But each of the days can be dedicated to young people. And every day we're going to focus on our work and our efforts in engaging young people and in prioritizing initiatives together with you all, and engaging even more young people, even from marginalized and vulnerable groups and key populations. And in the near future, we're planning more initiatives, hopefully not virtual initiatives, but initiatives to be implemented out in the field with the broader engagement of young people. So how I will come out from this meeting with some keywords: definitely dialogue, engagement, working together to increase access to information, to services, focusing especially on the most vulnerable and marginalized, empowerment, bringing social change. Definitely, I mean, these are some of the key words, and what I would like to conclude that each of us and every young person, especially those that are facing more challenges and issues, especially in the context of COVID-19, they need love, they need compassion, they need to know that they are cared about, and each of us has a role to play in this. And I thank each of you for being today and for bringing your heart into the discussion. And a particular thanks to you, Christy and Gladiola, for moderating this coffee talk, which has been very, very special in my life experience. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dorina, Dr. Abaszadeh, and Elida for the warm, kind words and for joining and making this happen. Now, before I conclude all the event, we kindly ask you through the email to prepare a message of support for the UN75 initiative. So we ask you to write UN75 on a piece of paper, like I tried to do. I don't think it's visible. So we can all take a group pictures like we used to do in physical on-site events, try to make something similar. I know if our team can tell us if the picture is ready.
Sorry, but I really don't have a paper besides this with me, so.
It's okay. Okay, are we set? Okay. Does anybody else want to join the picture? We already took one, but if there's somebody else who wants to join? Okay. Okay, thank you very much to everybody. This was the 5th and last coffee talk that we organized in the framework of the UN75 initiative, a joint project, a partnership between UNA Albania and the UN country team to promote the dialogue, especially among youth. These events were initially, of course, thought to be held on site, but they adapted to the new normal, trying to find ways to reach as many people as possible. This kind of events try to be inclusive, but the main outcomes and inputs that come from these activities is that they seek to have a multiplier effect. So they seek to spark this conversation so that all the participants here can continue this conversation in their private and public groups and forums. For example, Daniel can talk about these ideas now with his association and community. Mike can also has direct contact with Elida UNFPA and will try to address better his concerns and try to see how we can improve everything. So each one of us today has the role and duty to continue this conversation, and this is the only way that we can reach all those people who cannot be here because of internet and connection constraints, and all these people who could not participate for other reasons. So what is beautiful about this initiative is that I was told that Albania has overpassed by far the number of submissions that was required to do. And what is most beautiful from this thing is that 61% of the submissions come from youth, from people from 16 to 30. So this is a clear indication that youth want to be active, they want to express their opinions, they have a lot to say, and they have also the passion to do it. And I think also regionally, these data are among the first ones. So we take great pride in this fact that we help somehow to achieve this result. And allow me please to thank all the youth of UN Youth Albania who have engaged since March until now to create this 5 series of coffee talk. And I think we all see the value of this UN global dialogue. And we hope that now, when all the results of the dialogues have been processed, we follow up with actions. So we ask accountability from our officials. We are there to ensure that all these promises and all these ideas will be respected and implemented. So in the spirit of the International Youth Day and UN75 initiative, I hope that you continue the conversation every single day, as Arlene said, and I hope to see you all again sometime soon in different settings, in different activities. And please feel free to contact us for everything you need, or if you want to organize something else different, or if you want to just catch up with a coffee, respecting
Thank you so much,
distancing.
If you can, please to share the contact of the participants, because I don't have the contact of them in my email, if you can.
Of course, we will share you. We will share also a feedback form so we can hear from you your thoughts on how can you improve. But that being said, thank you all once again, UNFPA Albania team, and all the youngsters from Youth Network and other organizations joined here. And happy International Youth Day, and have a beautiful day.
I hope I see you not virtually but physically sometime soon when I come to Albania. It's still in my agenda, but due to pandemic, it's always delayed. But I hope it will happen one day.
Yes, let's hope for the best.
Yes,
Fingers
exactly. Crossed. Fingers crossed. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
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 Thank you all.